grid that's called construction, just like whenever you're drawing for your construction lines. I'm going to move that up to the top, and I can get rid of layer 3 and 4. So I'm going to take those and delete them. Also, when you open Rhino, this may not exist depending on whenever you purchase it or whenever you installed it. This may not be there, so your screen may look something more like this. If you need to activate that or turn those on, it's this little pie key shape under the standards panel, or it's this color wheel shape. So if you click any one of those, then this toolbar comes up. You can also use the help menu. This is really important. When you click help, make sure auto update is selected. I'll leave this docked over here to the right. But whenever you choose any command, whenever you type in any command or you choose any function on the toolbar, a little video will come up and step-by-step instructions that will come up on how to use that tool and related tools. So to get started, instead of using this base grid that's given to me, I want to turn this off so I can make my own grid. So to turn that off, I'm going to type in the word grid. Most of the commands are fairly intuitive, so if you just start typing in what you want to do, similar commands will come up. So if I type in grid, over here along the top, most commands have options within the command. And so it's something like this. You can change snap spacing, you can change the extent of it. I usually go to the H value, so anything that's underlined you can select and it's an option. So I'm going to select H so I can turn off the grid, and then I'm going to hit P to apply it to all viewports, and then press enter to get out of the command. And like CAD, right click, enter, or spacebar are all enter values, so you can exit or enter into a command with those. So now we have our grid system here, or our viewport. I'm going to want to go to my layers and use construction layer. So construction layer is going to be my current layer, and I want to start setting up my base grid. And so I'm going to use this polyline command to set up my base grid. Also notice any of these commands that have this little triangle on the far right, these commands will expand the toolbar so you can choose many different types of ways of creating similar geometry. But for us, we're just going to use this line. Once we have the line, now I need to draw first I want to draw the boundary, so the 12 by 12 boundary. To do that, I'm just going to select anywhere in the viewport, and I'm going to draw up, and I'm just going to type in 12.
11 by 11.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's our DB1 class. So I typed in 12, I need to type in a new value, so 11. Now it's snapping to 11, and I'm going to snap up in the up direction. And I'm just going to take this and move it. So I'm going to type in the move command and just move this out to the side. I'm just disabling ortho so that way it doesn't keep snapping the things for me. And smart track. So I have the 11 line going up, and I need to take this line and copy it over. I'm also going to gumball, just so you can see it. So I'm also going to take this line and copy it over 11 inches. So I just type in the command copy, and I can select anywhere in the viewport, and just as long as I move, I guess I should use the ortho one. As long as I move my mouse over in the right direction, I can type in the distance I want to copy it over. So I just typed in 11, left click in the viewport and press enter. And now I need to connect these lines for the top and bottom rails. So with my object snap on, I just want to make sure that endpoint is selected. So you have a couple of different options here: endpoint, nearest, points, midpoints, and so on. I just want to make sure it snaps to the endpoint. So if I hover anywhere near the end of that line, it'll snap to it. And I'm just going to make the other side. So now I have my square. That's perfect for us. I'm going to take this and join it, so that way it's all one rectangular geometry or a box rather than individual line segments. So I can take all of this and type in the command join, and it joins it all together. So now instead of selecting it and selecting individual lines, it selects the entire shape. And I'm going to offset this. Offset's the command that we want to use to offset something inward or copy it inward at a certain value. So I'm going to use the offset command. Under distance, right now that's preset to 180. I'm going to hit D, enter, to activate the distance option, and I want to offset this 1 inch. Now I just select any one of those lines and then point in the direction I want to offset. So I'm going to offset inward. So now I have my outer boundary and I have my inner boundary. In my layers, I'm going to go ahead and add 2 more layers. So I'm going to add a layer called boundary and another layer called interior boundary. And I want to move these to that layer now. So if I want to select one of these and move it to the layer, I can select the object, and in my properties panel, I can switch it to a different layer. So under the layer pull down, I can go to boundary. So it'll change color and it'll be in that layer. I can also do this along the bottom. So Rhino is very redundant. You can do one command in like 5 different ways. And so I'm going to select the interior boundary. Down here on the bottom, I'm going to move it to the interior bounds. So now I know this is my interior, this is my exterior. In my layers, I can lock both of these. So I know I'm not drawing inside of that anymore. So if I select this, I can't select any of it. It still exists, it's just locked. Next thing I want to do is start drawing my base grid. So I'm going to go to my base grid layer. I'm going to change colors. You guys can see it a little bit better. And same thing with my polyline command. I'm just going to draw a vertical line. And now I need to copy this line over to the right to make a 1/4 inch grid. So to do that, I can type in the command copy, select my object, press enter, and start typing over 0.25, 0.5, but this is going to take forever, right, to go across the entire 9x9. So what I like to use is an array command. To delete something, you can just hit the delete button, or for Mac users, hit DE, or function delete. So I'm going to use an array command to copy this over a little bit faster. Array is typed in ARRAY. Click enter. So the number in the X direction, right now I'm going to type in 36. Number in the Y direction, I just want 1 going up along the Y. So 1, accept that value. Z direction, 1, because I just want 1 value. Now it asks for the spacing, and I can either select in the viewport and drag over, or I can type it in, but I know I want it to be 0.25, press enter. So it ghosts in the grid line, and I'll press enter again. So now I have those activated, and I just want to do the same thing for the horizontal lines. So I'm going to take this line, come over, select the line, type in array. This time I don't want to go 36 in the X direction, so I just need 1 in the X direction. In the Y direction, let's go ahead and do 36. Z direction is 1, and then 0.25 for the spacing, and then press enter again. So now we have our basic grid set, or our basic grid. Now let's develop patterns on top of this. So now I can activate pattern 1. That's going to be my current layer, and I can lock my base grid. Let's develop a series of patterns. So I'm going to use my polyline command again, and this time I'm going to use maybe intersection as another object snap, so I can snap to these intersections of these lines. And let's make a pattern. So my pattern is going to maybe start here, come down. You're good. You're good. Okay. So I'm just clicking, and I clicked 1 too many points, so I can just hit U, enter, to undo, and you see that that's an option up here. And I'm just going to select and make this pattern. So I have this pattern here that I want to create, and if I want to copy this, I can again type in the word copy and start copying this over. So that's fairly easy to do, and I can do that a ton of times. Or just similar to the array command, I can type in array. Numbered to the X direction, I'm not sure how many I need right now, but let's say it's maybe about 25. In the Y direction, I just want, let's say 25 again. Z direction is 1. So the spacing, now I can drag this. So I know I want it to line up with the bottom right-hand corner, and I know I want it to be up to the upper left-hand corner. So I can select that and ghost it. 25 is way too big. So now I can reduce the number. So since this is ghosted, I can go back in and change these. So my X number, let's maybe try that as 5. So too few. 7 looks good. My Y spacing, or my Y number of units is 7 as well. I can press enter to accept that, and now I have a pattern. So now I have a pattern, but if I look at this, my pattern doesn't really go to the edge of the page, right? Or to the edge of the 9x9 boundary. So I'm going to want to go back and update this. So that's the beauty of the array, is instead of having to copy this over and spend 30 minutes copying this, get to the end and realize something doesn't match or something doesn't work correctly, you can very quickly undo this, come back to this object, and change some of those values on it, and then array it once again. So I think it was maybe like 2 units off. So I can hit the F10 button, or function F10, and I can select these points now. Function F10 is going to highlight control points. So I can now select these control points. To select multiple control points, I can hit Shift. So I can select both of those, type in the move command, and move that 1 line over. And I can do the same thing for the top. Maybe that's going to solve the problem. Let's see. Array, 7, 7, 1, And let's select from lower left to upper right. Now I went too far, but the top is working, left isn't working. Or actually, left side is working, it's just 6 now. So I can take these and delete them. Right, so I can select all of these on the left-hand side, select all of these on the right-hand side, and now I have a grid system or a pattern. To turn off the base grid, I can turn this off. I can also turn off those interior bounds so I can see my base pattern. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? And we can go and develop a series of other patterns on this. I'm not going to go into it for the sake of time because I want to show you guys how to export to Illustrator. But in pattern number 2, we could go back in and develop something inside of these squares, which would kind of represent the complementary pattern systems that we were talking about, where there's a 2-part system or a 3-part system. So to take this into Illustrator to print, we would want to print the base grid. We would also want to print the pattern study and the exterior bounds. So what we can do with that is just select everything. And we'll obviously want to save the file, but we can go to File, Export Selected. And do you see how I had these locked? It's not going to export that. So I want to make sure the exterior boundary is unlocked, base grid is unlocked, and pattern study is unlocked. I can select everything, go to File, Export Selected, and I'm just going to save this to your desktop. Is that okay? Yeah. And I'm going to save this as, make sure you change the file type. So I want to save this as an AI file for Illustrator. And I'm going to name this sample1. Press enter. And this is really important. You want to make sure you preserve the model scale. Don't take a snapshot. If you take a snapshot, these aren't going to scale correctly. So preserve the model scale and make sure 1 inch equals 1 inch. We are drawing at 1 to 1. Also click OK. On the top in the command prompt, it's going to tell you that it was exported correctly. So if we minimize this and open up our AI file, it should be here. Oh, there we go. So if we double click this, it should open in Illustrator. Just give us a second.
20? 20.
Oh. And so whenever you export, it does export relative to the origin. So our drawing was in the upper right-hand corner. You may want to move this down to 0, 0, 0 before you export it. But I want to go ahead and change my document setup and edit my artboards. So, oh, is it 11 by 17 already? Okay. So if it's 11 by 17 already, all we have to do is select all of our drawing, and we can move this. Yep, it's 11 by 17. So we can center that on the page if we wanted to. And just move some of this stuff out so you guys can see it really quickly. So we can see the grids, we can see our pattern, and we can see the outer line that we'll have to crop eventually. Let's pan this around so you can see it. And we can change line weights in here. So it imports with all of our layers, so we can turn these off and leave our base grid selected. We can select our base grid. We can change this to black if we need to. And we can change line weight up here, so we can change this to like a 0.25, and then we can turn on our pattern, lock the base grid, select the pattern, and also change this to your black line color, and we can leave that at 1 point maybe. So now we can see our base grid, and we can see our pattern on top of it. If it doesn't read well, you can always lock it, unlock your base grid, select everything, and drop this down a little bit more. And that reads a little bit better. And then we have our boundary line. And so you guys already know how to move from Illustrator out to print, right? I don't have to go over that. So once you have it in here, just save the file again. So file save. It's going to ask to save over. Just click the same name, save, replace it. Click OK. And you should be good to go.
Real quick, I was going to show
Yeah.
a couple of. So as you guys start working in Rhino, inevitably when you're working at 10 or 11 at night, you have a question about software. There's some good resources, especially for Rhino, that you can go to. One is called Digital Toolbox. So when you go here, there's a lot of really good tutorials for Rhino, right? Starting with basic, going all the way up to doing a model of the Farnsworth house. So this is, if you have free time, probably not during the semester, right? But whenever you have free time over Christmas holiday, you can go through and learn, get a leg up on Rhino.